Hey folks, welcome back to Let's Play Final Fantasy XII, the Zodiac Brave story. But that's not really what it's called. On MysteriousJG, we have two hunts that we can be working on. We have our last guest character getting ready to join the story relatively soon. But I'm going to at least take a crack at doing these boss hunt fights before we get any further in the story. One of them I'm pretty confident we can do, because I just did it off screen. Full disclosure. But I do remember this one having been quite challenging years ago. I remember being frustrated by this one. But that might have had as much to do with anything else about the fact you have to go rather out of your way. And in the old PS2 where you didn't have like double speed running, it was annoying to go really far back into a section of the game that we've already finished with to do a hunt at this point. Also, interesting note, I was about to go outside and go for a walk. I've been kind of putting it off all day. And literally, I was like, I'm going to go use the potty and then get out and throw on my headphones and go walking. And while I was in the potty, sorry for using potty language, peal of thunder. And then I come out and look, and yeah, it's like big old rainstorm going on right now. Which is, I guess, good for you as the LP audience. Not so good that I'm talking about the potty. But anyway, the hunt we're about to do is a dark rumor when there's a creature called Bonello making noise. Also, Monid kind of sulked off, and it's kind of hinted that there's something suspicious about Monid going on right now. The one-eyed dude. Anyway, in order to actually get here, I teleported to this crystal here, and then made my way up and around and over to here and into the Zaratan Caverns. I didn't mean to do this without you guys on screen, but I opened the path from here to here by touching a boulder and knocking it into a path, but it wasn't exactly super exciting cinema that you won't be able to live without seeing. You want to be a smart ass in the comments, you can say, oh no, that's the whole reason I watched the LP was to see that cinematic, whatever. But you make your way into the Zaratan Caverns, and that's the only way to get to this little isolated chunk of Nam Yensa Sansi, which is where we are. And the girls, Grimmet War is supposed to be brave. I really need to like consider switching the party up. Like, the thing is that, I mean, help me out here. I can't come up with a logical grouping of party members. Like, the 3 boys and the 3 girls is one thing. Van, Balthier, and Fran seems like a logical team because they were, you know, allied at one point, like, and Fran doesn't really, I don't know what Fran thinks of Van, but Balthier kind of like quasi taking Van under his wing a bit, and sort of a Han Solo Luke Skywalker thing, I don't know, but like, Balthier is clearly supposed to be Han Solo, that much is obvious, and Fran is a sexy Chewbacca. But, no, we had a little thing going there, and that makes sense. But then, and Ash and Bosch make some sense together, because Bosch is sworn to protect Ash. But, honestly, Van makes sense with Bonello, or teamed up with Balthier and Fran, but there's no third person who makes sense with Van and Bonello. Bash makes sense with Ash, but there's no third person that makes sense in that group. So that's kind of why I'm like, I guess I'm thinking about it too hard, but in terms of storyline and characters, and there's no logical teamings. And you might see why I'm thinking about that in a minute, because as we get up here to take on this, well, I won't say anything further. Let's go up here and actually see what's going on with this hunt. And I just did this one off screen, and then was like, oh, so this one I'm not too terribly worried about. The other hunt that we have access to now without getting a guest character first may be more challenging. But this one, I remember it having really frustrated me on PS2, but I either have much better gear or a much higher level, because I think we're going to be okay. That looks like Monid. Or is that Monid?
So we've drawn you out at last.
I don't think that's
The
Monid.
moth cannot resist the flame. Now you will burn.
Who are you? Oh, Ash seems upset.
No see, Balthier.
Okay, him I did
I've
recognize.
been biding my time trolling for hunters. So long you've kept me waiting. I was beginning to think you didn't care.
You are looking rather careworn. Are the lizards in the sandpits not company enough for you?
My blade
Eucridides
requires
or
a sharper tongue to keep its edge.
various other pieces of chatter. So, here we go. It's, Ash, Bonello, Fran. Monid is here, but he's our ally. So that was Monid. He tells us, we've lured you out and now you'll burn. I thought he was talking to us. He's talking to... Bagamnon and Bwagi, unless that's Bwagi who is talking, but I think... Yeah, I think Monid was saying, so we've lured you out like moth to a flame and now you will burn. And Monid's our ally. So it kind of doesn't make sense now, but I just remember when playing this on PS2 and this guy popped out, I was like, oh, cool, because I was kind of noticing the fact that many hours of gameplay had gone by. Oh, it stopped raining. I should probably go walking after this video. Many hours of gameplay had passed since we'd seen this guy. The game just kind of forgets about him. Like he's one of those things where the story, he seems like a big deal, and the game just forgets about him. So this is kind of a neat way to bring him back. He's an enemy of Balthier. Bonello obviously owes him a beating too, because he kidnapped Bonello to try to get to Balthier. But he's not connected to the main story. He's just an enemy. It's like if Balthier is like Han Solo, he's like Greedo or something. He's not really connected to the Empire. So it's kind of fitting that through the hunt missions, we actually get him back as an enemy. So anyway, I'm talking way too much here. Let's move along. So the first thing we want to do with Bonello is start dispelling people's positive statuses, particularly... Well, actually, we'll start with Bwagi. Begabnon has haste and protect, but none of these guys have anything that's really worth stealing. Like, Begabnon has an elixir. It's not a huge deal. So we just kind of want to kill them as fast as possible. And we want to kill the underlings because they have significantly less hit points than Begabnon does. But we have Sloga, and we should use it. We also got bad guys are coming. So now they're both slowed. And we can get rid of... Gilgamesh has haste, huh? Interesting. So remember that Gilgamesh hasn't been dispelled, or Gilgamesh hasn't been dispelled yet, but I'm not going to waste time with a lot of stuff like blind or anything like that. Just get rid of the positive stuff, see if we can slow them. That'll be enough. Because as you can see, the first of the thugs is already at half health. Gilgamesh is casting Shell. Nobody's really doing magic damage right now, so I'm not all that worried about that. So Rhino, Begabnon still has protect. Bwagi does not. Get everybody's protect removed. Begabnon now has Shell and Protect. And I want to keep Monid alive. Alright. Otherwise, we're just going to beat up the weakest characters as quickly as we can. Gilgamesh is casting Protect, so we'll want to dispel that at some point. No, stop. Don't attack him. Go after Gilgamesh. Although, this is actually not going as well as it did off camera a minute ago. Monad's running into some trouble. Maybe he died and I didn't even notice off camera, but I gotta get Ash closer to this assistance character because oh, now Bonello's getting beaten up. Well, Bonello distracted its main dude while, he's still got Protect. Let's go ahead and steal that elixir just for the hell of it. And get rid of Protect. Seems to have gotten reapplied at some point. But Fran and Bonello both have steel, which is going to be important with the other hunt mission that I want to do. Alright, well that didn't take too long. Just for the hell of it, let's see if we can get any kind of status, but like it's probably not worth the effort, but I'm just curious if I can get him bleeding. Oh, I can. Should go quite quickly now. Going for the Shining Ray. Shining Fingers, sad. It's not going to be enough, friend. I guess Monad's going to be okay. I almost feel like bringing in Balthier to finish this, but I think it's fair that Fran gets a chance, or Fran, but particularly Bonello gets a chance to be part of the kill. I'll finish him off already. I think Ash got him. Great Mother of Mercy, is this the end of Little Bagabnan? Apparently not. Apparently he shows up in the sequel, which is for like a portable system. Game Boy Advance or something like that. Ash looks sad. Bonello doesn't look like she gives a shit, but I've read bitches. Look at my butt, says Fran. Check out my butt. Check out my ash. Just like every shot of her in the game is like designed to show off her, you know, her armored rabbit tail butt. I dare say Bagabnan could have done with a good sand scrub some time ago. He was the hunter stalker. He'd been trying to lure you out all this time. Can't say as why, though. Why the long faces? The plan worked, didn't it? I guess I didn't really note how he talked a minute ago when he was voice acted. Ah, Montblanc didn't tell you, did he? Montblanc didn't tell you, did he? Well, if you haven't put two and two together yet, the Bolito hunt was all for show. A way to lure the hunter-stalker into the open. Montblanc knew we couldn't let him go unchecked, so after we hunted the trickster down, he asked me to look into this stalker business. It was called Operation Barry Windham. None of my investigations were leading anywhere, and the longer we waited, the more victims kept piling up. How did he know when that guy showed up that he wasn't a hunter too? I guess this was a hunt that was only advertised to elite members of Clan Centauro. So Montblanc and I talked it over and decided to use this Bolito hunt as a trap to lure him out. Figured a hunt somewhere nice and isolated ought to do the trick, and I went ahead to lie in wait. And it worked. Probably had something to do with you. There's something about you folks. You piss off my kind. Either way, it worked. Well, I guess the rainstorm has started up again, so never mind. Oh, and a phony hunt means no bounty, obviously, so don't go expecting one. I guess that's supposed to be a meaningful glance. Ah! I'm only pulling your tail. Tough crowd. I know a lot of pervs who'd like to pull Fran's tail. Ahem. Anyway, don't worry. Montblanc gave me your bounty. It should probably be him to give it to you, but I guess it's all the same. Probably best to do it out here, actually. Phony hunts and lures. Can't blame the boss for wanting to keep that quiet. Here you go. I'll be heading back to the hall. Good hunting. And regardless of what party you used, I mean, you get your actual party on the bridge watching him fall into the sand, but then it switches to this, like I said, one of the handful of logical groupings in the game, a Dark Rumor. And we got a Mega Elixir out of that. And then it's back to the ladies. I guess we'll take a quick look and see if there's any cool loot boxes out here, but... Oh, I'm going the wrong way. I wanted to check this isolated corner first. Because indeed, when you come out here, if you make your way out here earlier in the game, not only do you have to get through a screen of the Zeltenia Caverns, which is not easy to do at this point in the story. At the point in the story when you'd be coming out here and it's all new and blah blah. The Zeltenia Caverns are pretty tough, but it feels like a big waste of time when you come out here at that point. And maybe there was a treasure chest there, I forgot. At any rate, annoyingly enough, we've got to make our way out of... These guys are no longer worth the time. But yeah, we got to make our way back out of here. And fleeing at super speed is our best bet. Then we want to make our way back towards the teleport crystal. So I spared you the initial trip, but you are seeing the return journey and how, again, this is a little bit out of the way if you are you're on the PS2 and you don't have super frame skip powers. You're coming all the way out here, and then you don't realize that when you do get out there, rather than a single boss fight, regular hunt, you're going to have like a group of enemies to fight. Although, as I just showcased, they're not particularly bad. Oh, I took a wrong turn getting out of here. And as you can see, even when they're landing hits, it's doing 0 damage because we're at a much higher level and have much better gear than we did fighting through here before. Trying to look at the map rather than the screen, which is has a rather mixed rate of success. Oh, got the wrong way. These treasure chests are unlikely to be worth opening at this point. Ooh, Tri-Attack actually still does damage. Anyway, we're going to save our game. Just because we got one more hunt behind us. And, I think I chose the right... They're all the same date here, 5/19. I'm wondering if I chose the right Ravenester Southgate, I think is where I started. Huh, it's possible I didn't actually choose the last save, but I chose one, I think I must have done, because I chose one where it wasn't like one of the last things we did in the last video, and I haven't done any off-screening of this particular game since you guys last saw it. I think this is still the most current. So this is a slightly unusual hunt in that you don't have to go... It's marked complete. According to Monad, the clan has been hoping to catch him. Reward received from Monad. So this is one of the few ones that you don't go back and report on. But now we have to go find a mysterious man What? Somewhere in the Lusu mines. Okay, it's not actually showing me specifically where, which is slightly surprising. But I believe we can just go into the Lusu mines. Teleport over there. And figure it out. Now this fight, I don't mind telling you, this is something, it doesn't it happens a lot in some games. Like Final Fantasy IX used to drive me freaking nuts. Every boss battle, you had to steal 3 times. Like you had to try to get into a situation where you could continue the boss battle as long as possible to give Zenity and Zidane enough chances to steal and get all this gear that you couldn't get any other way than stealing from bosses. And it meant every boss fight turned, rather than into this like badass fight for survival and trying to eliminate a boss as quickly as possible before it took you out, it just turned into cast offensive buffs, try to get as resilient as possible, and defend while your guy steals constantly. A couple of Final Fantasy games have fights like that. The hunt mission coming up is the only time in this game, I think, where you're really under heavy pressure to steal, because there are items that you can't get any other way than by stealing from this hunt. For that reason, I'm not making any secret of the fact that I completely read up on this boss to figure out the right times to steal and stuff. So my concern here is that it's a high-level boss, and I might still not be able to win, but I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I'm figuring this out from scratch on my own. This is not me trying to fake a blind LP at this point. Anyways, so I believe one of these bridge sections is where we're going to fight it, because not like I'm some genius to figure that out, but the hunt is called, and if you're a Final Fantasy nerd who knows all the Final Fantasy stuff, this is a reference, but it's called Battle on the Big Bridge. So you may actually kind of have some idea of what's coming if you are somebody who knows Final Fantasy lore. Most of the Final Fantasy games are not connected to each other, but there are 1 or 2 recurring elements across multiple games. And I'm not going to say any more. I'm just going to go on, and if you know what's coming, you know what's coming. Oh, well, first try worked. Because this is the boss. Well, it isn't the boss. This is the cinematic that means the boss is on his way.
Now we fight.
And what we have here is a special character in Final Fantasy history. And what we've actually got coming is a multi-part battle. I'm confident I can handle the first part. The second part, I am not so sure about. But this is Gilgamesh and Enkidu. Might be pronouncing Enkidu right. I'm pretty sure I'm wrong. I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing Gilgamesh right. So, Gilgamesh first shows up in Final Fantasy V? Maybe 4. It's the one that came out in Japan only until, like, they all got re-released decades later in anthology editions in the West. It's the one that has, like, X-Death, the evil tree. Yeah. So Gilgamesh is, like, a secondary boss. Like, he's a secondary plot character from that who's working for X-Death, the evil tree. He kind of doesn't exactly turn good, but he's like I don't know, it's interesting. Like, people who are really into Final Fantasy, he's one of their favorite recurring characters. He shows up in Final Fantasy III, which is what I still call it, Final Fantasy VI for those who want to use its correct name. He's like a comic relief character who shows up, and he and Ultros mention each other in dialogue. You never fight him as a boss. I don't remember if he shows up in Final Fantasy VII. In Final Fantasy VIII, he's a summon. Then I don't remember him being involved in Final Fantasy IX, although I think he is, actually. I think he's, like, there's optional quests where where he's a part of it, but I don't think you ever fight him. And then in Final Fantasy X, part of me wants to say that he's like the Esper, but he's not. It's like he's got some similarities to the Zanmato Esper guy, but it's not. I don't think it's supposed to be the same guy. And then he may or may not be in 11, the first multiplayer one, and here he is in Final Fantasy XII. So Gilgamesh's deal is that he's some kind of interdimensional being who steals swords, and he always shows up, he acts like a badass, and then he gets played for laughs. Like, he acts like he's this big, intimidating guy, but there's always some comic relief where he goofs up, and in Final Fantasy 13-2, he shows up as a DLC boss, and, like, Snow interrupts his dialogue. He's in the middle of making a big speech, and Snow interrupts, and haha. But in the, he's like a mandatory story boss in Final Fantasy V. In pretty much every other game where he shows up, if he's a boss, he's an optional boss, and he's usually pretty high-end, even though they play him for laughs. But the main thing in this game is you have to steal from him because he has the Genji armor set, and other than using the trial mode, which I'm not messing with at all, that's the only way to get the Genji armor, is to steal it from him. So, like I said, this is the unique boss battle for this game. Some of the other Final Fantasy games are full of ones where you have to steal a low percentage success chance item from bosses that you can't get any other way. This boss battle crams it all into one. So what we're going to do is, although I read that the ending cinematic is slightly different if you keep Enkidu alive, but the battle's much easier if you take out Enkidu first. So we've already got everybody set with gambits that are going to attack the guy with the low hit points. Let's debuff Enkidu, because Enkidu also applies buffs to Gilgamesh, so you want to get rid of him. Although he doesn't have anything going right now. I think he can be hit with oil. And we want to slow them both down if that's possible. Otherwise, we just want to attack Enkidu. Oil did hit. And Enkidu's almost dead already, so that's not taking too long. Oil probably pretty helpful there, but he's still hasted, which is annoying. Now Enkidu, growl. Okay. Now it's time to start stealing, although we're not going to be able to get anything really good from him. Because he's got multiple forms, and we have to damage him before we can steal the best things from him. But, I can at least get in the habit of starting to steal here. And the easiest way to do it is going to be with gambits. I don't know why that's shut off. What can she be doing instead of attacking him? She doesn't really have any magic worth using. I guess she just needs to... She just needs to stop attacking. So I'll let them both steal for a while until it's worked, and then we'll beat them up some more, and then we'll steal some more. Let me check and see how much time is left in the video, because this could be considered Yeah, I'm actually going to call it a video now. So when we come back, like what you got is the intro to the Gilgamesh fight. When we come back next time, we'll do the fight proper. See you then.